Good morning, everybody.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to another amazing episode of Weekend Workshop number 27, I believe. This week, we're going to talk about the brand new, as of a couple of days ago, implementation of decals. And this is actually turning out a lot more interesting than I thought. At first, I thought it was like, oh, decals, this will be just like what we had in LeadWorks. And it is. There you have it. Right now, it just appears on all objects. And you can um, control it. I figured out like treating it as a box object, like a brush, is really the easiest way to control this. And then if you hold the Alt key, then it does uniform scaling on all three axes. Right now, it's using triplanar texture mapping, so it'll just sort of work on in every direction like that. So if you throw a grenade in the corner of a room, it will show up correctly on all three walls, like so. The normals are off right now, so that's appearing too bright. But I'll get that. That's just a detail I'll fix. So you can use these really in three ways, as I see it. One is you can use them for dynamic changes to the scenery. So the obvious case is like bullet holes and blood spatters. You can just plop one of these down anywhere you want it to be, and it'll just appear the way you want it. The second way you might use these is throughout the scene to add detail to the level, however you want to do that. So like you might have like some drips and stuff and scratches coming down the wall, stuff like that. I don't have as clear of an idea of like how that should work, but I do think it'll be useful. I think eventually like something like a variation of this is going to be used for roads, but I think it'll require a little bit of modification before in order to do that properly. And the third way, I haven't really that we haven't. Okay, so it turns out, how is this different from decals and leadworks? Well, first of all, it works with transparency. It works just fine with really well with transparency, actually. Um, let's see, screenshots.
Oh, that uses the decal system?
Yeah, those are decal. It's probably just one decal, and it
Wow,
just yeah, it's cool, huh?
very cool. You had an effect like that in Leadworks. But I didn't know. Forgot how it worked. I think it was like a model or something. But if anything could just be a decal and just behave like leaves or like seaweed, that would make that a lot easier.
Yeah, in leadworks,
It was like
it's
in the zone.
yeah, it was using the vegetation system, and then it had like and it was mesh geometry,
Mhm.
and the leaves just had a custom shader that made them bob up and down, made the vertices like go up and down very slightly.
Right.
But these actually, I mean, because this is a decal, it adheres like perfectly to the surface,
Mhm.
to the exact position of the surface. Because these are not deferred decals. It's just all rendered in one pass. It's just detail that gets added to the surface. So that surface only gets rendered once. So you have no issues of like Z fighting or anything like that. Unity's decal system, I discovered, it's using deferred decals like what Leadworks did, and because of that, it doesn't. Their decals sadly don't work with transparency, but these do. So there's a lot of interesting things I think you'll be able to do with these. And I believe that the performance on these is. I haven't done any like large scale testing, but I think the performance on these is going to be extremely good. It's just using the lighting system. Um, and I
Mhm.
can actually show you probably show you a little bit better what's going on here. If I just modify this shader. Let's see. Let's just get rid of that line. Hope this works. Yeah. So you can see better like what's going on. All the cells that might intersect the decal volume, which is this, are shown, and then it just trims around them based on the volume. So that's what's really going on.
Okay, now this is a feature I kind of want. Like, is there a way like you can tile the decals by editing this shader? Like, instead of stretching it, you can just allow it to tile
Yeah.
just by scaling it. Because obviously, I see the. Because again, I see the tiling. It's just you're cutting that out in the with that if statement. But if there was oh, I don't know what that is. Yeah, like that. But I want like a box or something I can tick to say, all right, do I want to uniformly scale them or do I want like to tile them?
Yeah. What I'm thinking we'll do is we'll have like a little section here for decals,
Decals. Yeah, that's what I was
and
thinking about.
it'll have settings for there'll be like a texture scale, a
Mm-hmm.
texture offset, and so you can use that to, if you want to make something that's long and skinny with like several, with many repeats, you can do that. That'll give you total control over that. I think we also want to have an option to determine whether it's using this trilinear texture mapping or whether it's projected, where there's just
Right.
a 2D projection.
Right. In case you just want something like the yeah, like this sewer cover. You don't want it to be like to accidentally appear like on like let's say you made like a road and then your road's a brush and then the curbs are a brush and then you want the like a sewer drain or something on the edge, but you don't want it to bleed onto the curb, you just want on the road. So you only want it to be one face. And in Legworks you had to make it really, really skinny but you would still kind of see a little bit of the decal on the side.
Okay. Well, there's also something else I plan to add, and that's
Mhm.
having a filter, like how our render layers system works. I think we'll have like a decal layers, like a bitwise flag, just like that, and that'll determine which objects decals can appear on. Because right now they just appear on everything, so they're appearing
Right,
on this character, which is obviously wrong.
right. Well, it'll be right if it was like like scorching or something, but
Yeah, and then so if you have like a not for him because he's a robot, but if you have like a wound, like a bullet wound, what you
Mhm.
can do is just parent it to the attach it to the character's bone so that it moves with the leg, and
Mhm.
then just filter it, set the filters so that it only appears on animated characters or that animated character perhaps. Hopefully that'll just having the simple bitwise flag, like an unsigned 32-bit integer. Hopefully that will be enough to do that. So in order to do that,
Mhm.
I'm planning to expand the way data is stored in the 4x4 matrix stuff. So right now
Mhm.
this is like IX, IJ, or IZ, IY, IJK, JX, uh, KX, TX.
Right.
Should be white. Okay, cool. And then here it's R, G, B, A, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's basically how data is stored in the entity data on the GPU. And this is stored persistently on the GPU. It doesn't get sent every frame. I want to expand this, so we actually have like an flags value that's a bitwise flag here, and then I want to have a value that says the entity has extended info. And if it does, then we'll expand that data slot and we'll add some more data. Here, we're going to add a projection matrix to override the camera projection matrix, and that's specifically for view models, so that when you set up your view model like a gun in a first-person shooter game, the view model will have a consistent appearance while being rendered by the same camera, even as you change the field of view of the camera for the
Okay.
user's preference or monitor. And this will store emission red, emission green, emission blue. So per entity emission color, per entity texture offset X, texture offset Y. Maybe we'll do it on 3 scales, maybe not. Texture scale X, texture scale Y. We'll move the color here, RGBA, and we'll assume that the color is like 255, 255, 255 with 100% alpha. And if it's not, then this bitwise flag will get set saying there's more data, and the color will be stored here. But most of the time, most entities use just solid white for their color.
Right.
And this, and then we'll put the most frequently used values here. So that would be render flags needs to be in there because the GPU calling is going to need that. Decal flags needs to be in there because the decal system will use that. And I don't know what will be here. So
Right.
whatever.
You have a lot of empty space, especially in 1H2, unless you want to do like emission intensity or something.
1H2, what?
Yeah, that's right there. So what are you gonna put there for the emission intensity?
No, because those are anytime you see intensity in the editor, it's fake. There's just a formula that converts it into everything gets stored in RGB.
Mhm.
Emission alpha, that doesn't really make sense.
No.
So we have some storage there. We have storage here. There's probably other parameters that I'll think of. And that
Oh,
way, most of the time, each entity will still only use the 64-bit matrix, and then when needed, it will expand to use a second slot. And in the very rare cases when it is needed, it will expand to include this extra projection matrix.
which, but it's not. It just grows. You can't. It's not like one or the other. Like you can have a view model that changes colors and has a projection matrix.
Yeah, it'll just reallocate a new slot with a bigger size and delete the old slot.
Mm,
So that's what needs to happen to make the decal flags operational.
right. One
Um,
thing I noticed about decals real quick is that is there a way to flip the decals? Because right now, it's backwards.
Yeah, I mean, we can just use we can use a negative. You can just set the scale to negative.
Right, but you probably want that variety on what like blood or something. But like for this cover here, the text is backwards.
Oh, I didn't notice.
I did.
What is it supposed to say?
Ram or Pam or whatever.
Pam?
Okay.
Okay.
Is
And
there a
Is that
way?
the X or the Y axis? I don't
I
know.
mean,
I'll figure. Yeah, it's just a. I'll figure it out. It's just a detail.
Is there a way to apply decals on models? So if you have models, for example, and to apply decal there also?
Yeah, so that's the third way of using this, and that's kind of new. I mean, I guess you could have done this with LEDWorks, but it just wasn't as practical. I think the performance with these is going to be very, very good because this is just using the light system, and we already know that Ultra can handle a lot of lights. And also, we could make these fade out at a with you could. I also want to add like a fade distance, which will also make it way more efficient. But I'm thinking that we can probably use these very, very liberally with models. And the, let's see, id tech decals. Like id tech, they're using a similar lighting system to us. And so they're using a similar decal system to us. And there's actually some really interesting stuff that they've done with this. If I can find it. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
no,
But I'm
I
trying to set up decal today and was nothing showing up. But I think it's.
You have to have it. You have
Not,
to assign in a material. There's currently no default
I assigned
material.
the material, but the material wasn't showing up.
Okay, let's see. Doom idtech decals. They do some really interesting stuff. And I remember seeing some really cool.
this is Doom 2016 and internal.
Yeah, both of them, I think.
Don't they like have like blotches of like guts and everything as or something?
I'm
It's been
thinking
a while.
more. I'm thinking more about all the tech, all the techie things, like all those details inside the level. They put like thousands and thousands of decals everywhere.
And because it's really cool. So you could, for example, apply graffiti and to a wall from a house or something, and yeah, use the same model on another place without the graffiti or with different other stuff.
Yeah, can someone look for articles or tutorials that show like what I'm talking about? If that, so I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah.
They might not even call them decals. They might call it something else. But
Again,
there are some.
renaming old technology to sound new.
Yeah.
So I need to assign a material, right? I did this. I assigned the material, but it was not showing up the decal.
You
At least
also, does it look
model.
like a light maybe?
I just take the normal material from CG
Or
from
you
the
just
asset
do
library.
you see anything at all, or is it just
No,
invisible? Okay.
it was just there.
You probably don't
I
have
had
the.
I had that problem. You have to delete your shaders and copy it directly from the templates. The updater didn't do that for me. I actually had to like manually update my shaders for some reason.
Yeah, just try it in a new project. You have to have like your shader. So PBR shaders PBR lighting.glsl. If you open that up, you should see a block of code under light underscore decal. You should see all this stuff.
Yeah, because I was having that problem too. I was like, wait, why are my decals not working? And then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try just recopying the shaders, and that worked.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
um, I, I'm gonna show you something in the voice channel chat. Give me a second. I just want to know what your solution is to fix this problem with the decals. This was a problem in Leadworks. Well, it wasn't a problem. It was a. You see, like I have a
Oh,
tile here.
I'm just not done with the normal calculation.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a
But
parameter that, yeah, this you can see it's kind of working, but it's not completely. There's a parameter that's pre-calculated that I have to go back and change.
right, so it'll be possible just to put that over the tiles, and I won't see the tile creases. But
Right.
I'll just,
The normal will just blend in using the color map normal.
and then you can like disable that if it's like blood or scorching or something, right?
I think in that case you would just I think if you don't use a normal map in the material, then the original normals will
All
just
right,
use will just be
and then
used.
what happens if I want just like a piece of paper or something where it's not should there be like a flat normal that comes included in every
Yeah,
project?
yeah, exactly. I think that's the best way to do it.
All right.
Now it's showing up, but on the model it looks really weird. I tried on the Mr. Robot guy, and it looks like this. On the ground it looks like normal like the normal texture or like the normal material.
Yeah. Well, these are brand new, so
Yeah,
I'll get the details worked out.
I just said, you know.
I'm running out of disk space on this machine, but the video's being recorded to a separate drive, so I think it'll be fine.
Mm.
Okay, so there's a tutorial here making decals in Substance Painter for Unreal Engine. Um, so here's the decal, and then here it is in game, and you can see the color is overriding it, but the normal is also overriding it. I guess you could also have
Hmm.
I don't think you would just want to override the normal, but see
You want to
stuff like this.
blend. You want to blend the normal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll look exactly like this. And let's see if Polyhaven has. I was looking at ambient CG. It's pretty hard to find. It's pretty hard to find decal materials that decal. No results.
Look for like sticker or something.
Sticker. Yeah, no. These are super useful, and I don't know any source of PBR decals materials, and all they are is just a regular material with an alpha channel on the color map. So if anyone's actually interested in creating a bunch of these, that would probably make a very good DLC that you could sell on Steam and get paid directly by Valve, 70%.
There was on textures.com before it became paywalled. I downloaded a lot of grime and like stains and everything. It was just the image, but that's all I really needed. So
You can make something like this and stuff.
yeah, like that.
Yeah, this is what we need.
Yep. I can, since I already have it on my account. I didn't download everything, but I can give you like
Oh
what
yeah, this is good.
I can give you what I did pull for Cyclone because I needed this for Cyclone.
Are these Creative Commons licensed?
Yeah, Texas.com. I wouldn't use it if wasn't Creative Commons. But now you have to like pay for it,
Oh,
and
that is
before you,
dope.
yeah, but before,
Oh yeah,
I
this
think,
is good stuff.
yeah,
This is
I
really good.
think, yeah, it was really good. It was free. With like, I had like a credit system, like an AI like app, but then now everything is like paywalled. So I can give you what I have from this website. It's not a lot because I was trying to go because I didn't need like rusty things or anything. I just need like grime and like concrete stains and stuff. But I can give you what I have, and you can play with it.
Yeah, as long as we're
But
not violating the license, then
no,
I'm.
well, it's in Cyclone, and I haven't had any cease and desist letters.
Well, I mean, if it was Creative Commons at the time that you downloaded it, then we can do anything we want with it. We can sell it. We can put it in a package and sell it if we want, because that was the license at the time. But this is what I'm talking about.
Let me. Oh, I gotta connect my drive
Graffiti.
to get
Right, these are stickers.
the project.
Wow, there's a lot. Yeah, this is very, very good stuff. Anyways,
It might be worth. It might actually be worth. Look at the license, see if we could just buy them from that website and flip them.
yeah, and I mean, there's having them ready to go in Ultra in the correct format and stuff. There is value in that for sure.
Yeah, so that's a
Um,
possibility. But again, I can try looking for some. My server's offline because it's unplugged, but I can um go to my archives and see what I pulled for Cyclone and just give you the actual images.
yeah, or if Andy or anybody else who uses Substance is interested in creating new ones, as long as that's within, as long as selling textures is within like Substance's license, then that's also a possibility.
You can do everything what you want with Substance. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's basically made for something like this.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, let's see. What else? What else have we got to talk about? Last, do you guys have any other things about decals?
Nope, I kind of told you everything else I wanted. When you're just not done with them, so
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, so that's gone pretty well, and it's like I said. I think these are like, so you could use stuff like this, and also like more techie stuff, especially from Substance. Like how like in okay, let's see, Doom level design. Let's see
well,
if
you
they
could
call it
like
stickers.
we could add like hazard strips, and you can add um
Come on, Google search. Doom tech decals. This is a great article. It might have, not this one. They might have some stuff in here. Mesh decals. This is the article I based a lot of Ultra's design on, which is very cool. Let's see if they have anything. So yeah, like all this stuff in the like this is probably a decal. This is probably a decal. They put
not.
decals all over their models, and they just render it like that.
Oh, it's not painted on.
A lot of the stuff is just a decal that they add afterwards. They might. It's possible they might like bake it in or something like that. But I actually think they used. The decal, okay, the depth. The decals are also applied directly when meshes are rendered. They're stored in a texture atlas. We don't have to do that because we use bindless texture, so that's absolutely no problem. But all that beautiful detail you see, um,
Mm.
hmm, a lot of it is just rendered in real time using decals. Like that's probably a decal. That's a decal.
Yeah.
Those are decals. Those are decals. They just
Well,
go.
again,
That's probably a decal.
yeah. Well, the thing is with all these engines is that they don't use CSG. Everything is mesh based, so they have to build their levels using reusable parts, and then to make it look less, I guess, less cookie cutter, they have to then use decals to dress them up differently so it looks different.
Okay, here we go. They're doing it a little bit. They're doing it wrong. Um, they're talking about geometry decals. It would be so much easier if they just did this in the lighting pass. This is a post depth pass. They have a depth bias, and the decals need to be coplanar. They have a depth bias to avoid Z fighting. We don't have that problem. This is a pain how they did it. I'm surprised they did this because they could just do this so much easier if they just did it, treated them as lights. Um, let's see if we can detect the differences here. I'm not sure what we're looking at. I can't see the difference between these two images unless it does like an instant switch between them. But I think that shows all the decals. Hmm.
I mean, basically all the colored stuff, right?
I'm not really sure. I don't think they illustrate it very well. Huh. Can't do curved geometry very well. That's sad. Maybe they should have used Ultra.
It didn't exist back then.
Currently 1 million decals max per level. I don't think this is illustrated very well, but there are some better articles, and maybe next week I can find them and show them. And if you guys find any on the forum. Okay, hold on. I think I found something. Yeah. Okay, so like look down here at like this specific spot is what I'm looking at. And then let's go to the next image. And you can see it looks quite different. Maybe this little thing right here.
Maybe.
Yeah, and it's not there in the original, in this first image.
Yeah. I wish it was one of those sites where you can like drag a bar across and see the differences, but
Yeah, this would be so much easier if you could just flip between the images instead of this smooth scrolling in a PDF. I guess this tells us like where we should look. So not a great illustration of the principle, but you can see that they do use decals very liberally, and we can also do that. In fact, ours will work quite a lot better than theirs.
well, again, like this is not surprising to me because when I was like if you look at like a map from like Team Fortress 2 or something, there's decals everywhere too. You know what I mean? There's like they do decals for like the signages, they do decals for like stains, they do decals for um they were like since it was like a stylized approach, um They would have like those like that stylized like paint smudging. Those were decals. They had they had like some like since it's a game from 2007, they had like grass as decals, like on the side of the barn or something. They used decals for hazard strips, um, arrows, but they weren't like blend decals. They're more like overlays, which is it doesn't blend with the surface behind it. It's just like a sticker over it, and it didn't have support for like its own normal map or anything. But
Yeah.
it's the Source One engine, so
I mean, this is great. The decal system you did already. But there's here and there's some things like if you apply it on model, it gets light grayish, for example. But it looks really cool. I think you can make awesome things with this.
Yeah. So, anyways, my idea was like you could apply your decals around a model and then save that model as a prefab, and then you're placing that prefab everywhere. And when you do, those decals will be created and placed as children. And so that's how you can very easily add detail, like on a per model basis, even without actually having to go in. You can just have these repeating like details everywhere without having to go in and add it to the texture itself. You could just use base textures, and then have if we had a like a package of like sci-fi kind of decals, we could just place that detail everywhere. And
right.
tessellation and displacement have been removed temporarily in the current renderer until I get GPU calling in as like a final step. But once I do, decals will also work with displacement. So they'll actually, if the decal material has a displacement layer, you can have like you can put like a skull somewhere and like have like the skull coming out of the wall. It'll actually add geometry.
Well, I think a better use is actual bullet holes, like in Counter Strike 2. If you shoot like concrete, the bullet actually you get actually like see like this formation in the concrete and sands, and when you
Yeah, or
shoot
like
up.
craters in the ground, or tire
Yeah.
tracks. Tire tracks is another like cool one.
Will there be a way to like limit where the decal? Like, can I just say the decal can only be on this entity and nothing else, or do I have to make it really really thin so if like a physics prop or something rolls onto that blood there, the blood doesn't just get on like show on like the rolling barrel or whatever.
Well, that's the purpose of the decal layers thing that I was talking about. Just like render layers, it's just an unsigned 32-bit integer, and you just kind of define your own render layers, and that if there's like a combined value that's if they have a value, a bitwise flag in common, like the render layers, then that determines. I think that's probably the easiest way to determine like what entities a decal can appear on. And I'm also considering I might add in the future like an option to specify a specific entity where that only the decal only appears on that entity.
Right.
But let's start with the decal layers approach first, and then we'll see if that's not enough. Then we can get more complicated.
Okay. And make sure that you can rotate the decals and it won't cull like in Leadworks.
What do you mean?
Oh,
Like in Leadworks, it made the decal very, very long. It's a bug that you fixed in a
Oh,
beta.
okay.
Yeah.
No, that should be fine because yeah, because it's using the lighting system, so it should be fine.
got a
They're
question
treated just like a box light.
Okay.
about the decals right now. So the option to scale the decals is not in yet, right?
Right now, it's just you just scale the actual entity with the scaling tool. Like yesterday afternoon, I changed it. At first, they were just like a normal point entity, and then I changed it to be treated like more like a brush, the way that probes are.
Yeah, but I cannot resize it.
Why
So I
not?
got this orange decal box, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I press now to the in the top bar to the scaling, it's just not showing anything like to resize.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. You saw me doing it in the editor earlier though, right?
I was not there.
Okay. It'll be in the video.
Uh,
I'm actually like this my C drive on this laptop has run out of hard drive space, I think. So I'm going to not start the editor again during this video. But the video will be up later today, and it does show that. And like once I'm back on my computer, other computer, I can also show you.
you press something with the Alt key, right, in order to scale it.
If you hold the Alt key, then it'll do uniform scaling. Otherwise, it'll just scale like one face, whatever face you have highlighted.
Okay, yeah, I think it's a bit complicated, but keep going. I think I make a bug report or something then,
Okay.
because on my system, if I press the scale thing, nothing shows up.
Okay. It'll be easier to like talk about this once I'm back on my main computer.
Question: why you keep running out of space on your laptop if you only use this for like the voice calls?
Windows 11.
Yeah.
It just
get
like
bigger
the
hard drive.
Visual Studio like temp folder, like in the temp folder, the user slash like temp folder, it fills it up with like 30 gigabytes of garbage of like temporary files, and so I have to go in like manually delete it like every day.
Can you just upgrade the hard drive in that machine, or is it soldered on?
I don't know. I'm not gonna open up the the Dell. It's like a terabyte hard drive. What I really need to do is what I need to do is reformat this machine. Yeah, so this is something that it's very like
Yeah, this is what it looks when I press to the scale button. It's not just show nothing.
well, is the decal selected?
It
No,
was
you no,
selected.
no, 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 that's not the scale button. That's the
Uh,
face. That's
uh,
the brush face tool.
Maybe,
okay.
maybe
My
you should.
bad. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe you should grade those out when you're in the decal.
Maybe they should be disabled if no brush is selected.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
If I
also like you might want to start. You might want to use them when nothing is selected, and then start.
Well,
okay,
do it. Do it. Yeah, do it if like the decal is selected or something doesn't have a face.
I was kinda a bit, yeah. I was thinking this is the scale actually, but
Yeah, it
yeah.
looks similar
Maybe
to how it does
maybe
look similar
tooltips will
to
help.
how it works.
Maybe tooltips will help or something.
Yeah, for sure. I'll get those in, but that's going to be like one of the last things I do because there's just so many other things that I would rather get you guys first. Yeah, so this is something that's very dependent on the artwork. So having good artwork is what makes this feature useful or not. So that's something we really need to keep in mind. So so that's all I've got to say about decals for now. I got the axe model from Andy yesterday or today. Thank you very much. And I opened it in Unwrap 3D. It has the same problem as all of our other models, but I just did a quick test, and all you have to do in those models is you open it up, you open up the bone properties in Unwrap 3D, and whatever the scale it go through the bones, and any bone that you find that has a scale that isn't 1, take the value that's in there and then punch it into calculator. So like if the value is 0.5, then you just hit this 1 over x key, and that gives you the value it's supposed to be, and then copy that and paste it back into Unwrap 3D for the scale value for the bone. and somehow that magically works. I accidentally figured that out because I was just kind of eyeballing the scales of the bones and trying to fix them manually. And I
Mhm.
noticed after I did like two of them, I noticed, wait, that's like the value I'm inputting looks. I wonder if that's like the inverse of the original value. And then I tried it, and I was like, wow, that works. So like we were very very lucky that I figured that out, because that fixes everything perfectly. So we can fix all of those models, and the original author doesn't even have a working version of them. Like he doesn't have a working FBX file or a working GLTF file. So I'd like to give those back to him, because he might be able to use those. Then he can put them in like other marketplaces. He could put them on like cgtrader.com, and his models would be a lot more useful. And it sounds like Andy suggested putting using selling them as a DLC. Um, you know, either in his account, and he can have all the money. But it sounds like I don't know if he even wants to deal with that, or maybe he'll just allow me to sell them. But yeah, I think that would be very useful, and we know how to fix them now. We have a very good success rate now with those.
Yeah.
So that's very cool.
So after the X, that's pretty much it, right? We can start figuring out how view models should work and how the component should work and how dynamic we can make them. So anyone can just have a first-person weapon system.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah, the first person system is the kind of thing. Um, are you are you allowed to give this as for free? This models we use.
yeah, I already talked to him.
Okay, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, he's very easy to. I think he's very easy to work with. Um, let's see.
I also got another idea. I talk with you later if you have 2 minutes after the video.
Yeah, sure. Um, okay, so we'll have the. I think next week we'll have the custom projection matrix. I think we'll have this feature in by next Saturday, and we can start using that.
Instead
And
of the camera projection, I can finally get rid of that code.
yeah, you can get rid of it just like right now if you want, and then we'll just add this in, and they'll just be like a command like entity set projection matrix that will override the camera.
All right. How would one figure that out? Like, what values are good for the projection matrix, or is it just trial and error? Because every model's gonna be different.
Yeah, I think we need a camera preview.
Yeah, or something like, even if it's like a separate window or something where you can actually like play with it, like because we have to like visually see it, and relaunching the game 100 times is kind of going to be a really annoying.
There is a well, I was only thinking about using it in code. I do have a. It's I guess it's not in the docs because it's so niche, but the Mat4, the 4x4 matrix class does have a method that is it's like set ortho or set perspective or something like that. And that it's identical to the OpenGL commands that do that, and it will construct a projection matrix using either orthographic or perspective views. And so you do have you can use that to create like a perspective matrix that's like 90 degrees or whatever.
All right, but I guess like one thing I would suggest is that you put that in the entity properties, so this way the code will just work regardless of the model or settings. Because the only thing that the player really wants, I guess, this standard like user, they just want a holster. They want to switch through weapons and fire each one individually based on like what boxes they ticked and what numbers they put in the fields.
Well, let's do the implementation first, and then start using it, and then we'll
All right.
like it'll be easier to discuss like once we start actually using the system.
Okay.
So, and we also talked about last week, and we did some work on the FPS system, and we there was like no visible result from that. Actually, we just like broke the gun so it doesn't appear, which is fine.
Is it still broken? I haven't.
I haven't made
Again.
any changes since like Sunday, so
Oh.
probably. But that's okay because we were talking about we had some good discussion. We were talking about like a holster, which is like a weapon switching system. We were also talking about an inventory system, and at first I was like, "Oh, those are just going to be variations on the same thing." Like a holster is just a simplified inventory system, and then we were discussing it more and like figured out that like, oh wait, actually like oftentimes you have a holster and you also have an inventory system in the same game. Like Stalker has that, Cyberpunk 2077 has that, where you assign separate weapons to like weapon slots in your holster, and then you use the holster to what we're calling a holster to cycle through those weapons. So those are actually separate things, and they need to be treated separately. And I
Yeah, and then there's static ones where you're not where you can. There's static ones where, like in Half-Life 2, each weapon has an index, and then there's like Cyberpunk where you can pick and choose like what's your primary, what's your secondary, what's your
Yeah,
third weapon.
exactly. So I think there's really like we want to design a system that supports. We're trying to. There's four games I can think of that we want to support with this system. So we're trying to code these, make this system that's flexible to support these four styles. One of them
Hmm.
is just like old school FPS, like Quake 3, where you have a defined order of weapons. There's no inventory system. You just cycle through your weapons and they get added as you collect them.
Right.
The next is something like, I guess, like Amnesia, the Amnesia games, like the Dark Descent
Mhm.
and such, where you have items in an inventory, and you can equip those items. You can use those items. I don't think we
Hmm.
have to go into a lot of detail about what they are, but we do want like we want health packs to either be something that you walk over and they instantly give you health, or something that you walk over and you collect them and you put them in your inventory and then you can use them. Or maybe
If,
or some items you can equip them like a lantern and then you're holding it.
Right.
We want that kind of flexibility. And then finally, like
Mhm.
the third would be, I guess I said four, I guess there's only three. The third would be something like Cyberpunk 2077, where you have inventory items and you also have weapons and you equip those weapons in different slots and you use them.
Right.
I mean, you can have a base class. I used this in my survival game also. You have a base class, an item class, and then you have, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's why everything's broken right now.
Yeah, so we kind of need to like that's okay. We just need to like figure out how we want all of that to work. And if we don't need I don't think we need to worry about it right now, but I would like it to be flexible enough to support something. Oh yeah, the fourth type would be something like The Witcher or any
Right.
RPG game like Skyrim or whatever, where you have inventory, you have weapons, but I want the holster system to not be locked to the first person perspective. So, and we can't do this right now because you need the artwork in order to make it work. But I want to be able to have like a third person camera and have a sword, a character holding a sword or a gun or whatever. So I want the holster system to also support that. So you have sort of like you have the gun pickup and you have the gun item in the
Uh, You
inventory.
know, you know how I do this with my action bar in the survival game. I just have 10 slots with weak pointers, and if they are not null, the item is assigned. If they are null, there's no item.
Is that like an inventory system or is it a
I got an inventory. There are the items in, yes, and then I got an action bar like 1 to 0 where you can assign items to,
Mm-hmm.
and this action bar has just a vector with 9 weak pointers. And if the weak pointer is null, there is no item. And if there is an item, yeah, the weak pointer is not null.
What if you have can you have more than one each item?
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
I can show it to you right now if you want.
Yeah, sure. And I think we also
So,
want it to be like flexible enough that it can pick up items that have not been
Mm.
like if somebody codes a new item, we want it to just work as much as possible. I mean, it's not possible to anticipate
Yeah,
everything, but
I mean, one thing we could do in the future is like make like like a mini tutorials like how to work within the confines of the default components. Like, oh, this is how you make your own weapon. This is how you make your own whatever with these components.
yeah.
But for like advanced users who want to do everything, have their own systems and have for their own control, they're kind of like left on their own. But it does solve the problem of like people just coming in and being like, hey, how do I make like a first person shooter, or how do I make a marble game, or how do I do this?
Yeah, if we can like as much as possible like try to solve all of these problems all at once, I think that's going to be very cool. Oh yeah, and
Right.
we also want this to work with VR games. Don't
Oh
forget
yeah,
that.
VR is a little bit tricky because again because you kind because it's just VR is just tricky in general.
so you see the bar on the bottom, the 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I got here my inventory. You can see I have
Oh,
2
cool.
AKs, and I can assign this to the quick slots. And for example, like this. And if I press the buttons, it changed. Obviously, you don't see change right now because it's the same view model, but yeah. If I press now this, I have this weapon here. And if I search now here, and I can also put in some other items which are not really weapons, like this. And if I press now the 3, it uses directly the item
That's pretty
and
cool.
disappears in the inventory. Yeah. So this is how I made it with the weak pointers to the items. And I can show you also the items. I think I got a base item class like where is weapon item inventory and crafting item, consumable item. There is something in a normal item class. It's I think in some other folder. I'm not sure, but yeah, it just extends from the inventory item. And there are some functions I call on use, on pick up, on drop, and on destroy. And these items, for example, the weapon item, yeah, inherits from this and have the logic then there. If I pick up the item, what should happen? And yeah, if I use it. But I think the more complex, I wasn't talking at all, right?
What's that?
I was talking, but yeah, it doesn't press the button, I think. So I have a base item here, like the inventory item, and this all items are just, yeah, extends from this base class here with these functions.
Yeah, we did something similar to this. I mean, ours is just a concept right now, and yours is working. But there might be some very good ideas in here.
So yeah,
Um,
and I used the shared pointer, the weak pointers, because why not? So
Yeah.
yeah.
since we're talking about base classes, in VR, would it be should it be like would um should the first person player be the same as the VR player and then just change the mode based on like what like if VR is enabled or not?
I don't
Because the
think so. I
pro
don't think so. I think they should be
yeah.
different components.
Okay, but all right then. How will the inventory system like work if like because
Mm,
you have to
yeah.
because there's a lot of things because a VR player has models to, like the controller models and it has and you can't get the camera location the matrix yet right now with the VR stuff. So
I would make 2 projects, to be honest.
Well,
well the
I
thing
think he's
is
talking about like the components. Like should
right.
maybe if possible, I feel like the inventory system should have like it should just detect if it's running in VR or not.
Hmm.
If possible, if it's not, then we just won't do that.
Okay, well I also think the VR player should actually have like a simple FPS mode for just simple testing because sometimes you just
Yeah,
it just
that actually makes sense. Yeah. Yeah,
like
because
it does
if you're running in first person, if you just want to test something in first person view, you don't want to
right.
modify the map. That does make sense.
Right. But you said you wanted to do something like a player spawner, and you said that could be useful for like multiplayer games, and so maybe that can also be reused for like VR and not VR mode, and that's something I experimented with on my end.
I don't
All
follow.
right, so instead of like you placing like player dot PFB or whatever,
Hmm.
you just place the player spawner PFB, which is a prefab, and then you just tell it's just a prefab spawner at that point. But the player spawner, it's multiplayer is different because I'm not really one acknowledged in the multiplayer. But what you would do is like, okay, if this is in a VR game, the player spawner is there, and
Hmm.
then the player spawner would just say, "Oh, we're in VR's enabled. I'm going to spawn the VR player." And it's like,
Well,
and
we also want I think one of our design goals should be to do everything in components.
mhm.
Maybe there's a command line option that you can set in the editor that will tell the game a VR game that it should launch in non VR mode, in testing mode we'll call it.
Yeah, but
Maybe it should be done that way.
not nothing baked into the engine, just like the default like main app where you just put like no VR dash no VR, and then on the editor side, you got to make that more accessible, where the end user can access those command line options and choose when and when not to like use like no VR mode or whatever. Because I think you did make that window when you while you were developing the editor, but it's not in the current build.
Bruh. What window?
The launch options window. Like I want to be able to modify the command line
Oh
without
yeah, yeah. Is that in the settings right now? That should be in
no.
project. That should be in project settings, actually.
Oh yeah, there is something I also would like, or also would suggest, is that you can actually pass arguments or user-defined arguments
Yeah,
when you load the scene.
yeah, for sure. In the command
For
line.
example, no, in the load scene, maybe an override function where you can assign an vector of objects, and you can and then you can get this in the load method because if you think like this, with a multiplayer game, you join a server and then you will load a map, for example, and then you could write the server IP and all the stuff you need into the arguments, and then the components get, for example, the server IP and such stuff.
Hmm.
So you can access an array with user-defined objects in the load function of the components.
Why wouldn't you just use a global variable?
I think it's more cleaner if you pass it as an argument
Hmm.
because sometimes you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
It makes a bit more mainstream to work with.
And maybe we can also add a command to like instead of commenting out the Steamworks, you can just make that an argument for testing, like for debug mode. But in release, it's always on or something.
Well, there's good reasons like you might want to compile the game without using Steamworks.
Yeah,
Right.
like yeah. Well, the issue like with Cyclone, like I need like because it's so integrated in Steamworks, I need Steam running to just run the release build for
Mm-hmm.
testing, and that's like really annoying sometimes. Sometimes I just want to like build and run the game in release mode. Otherwise, it'll fail the Steam handshake.
Yeah, the way I do it is I have a header file where it says like Steam. I define a macro that says like Steam underscore build, and
Right.
then inclusion of Steamworks is
Yeah,
based on.
it's a if def statement. It's a macro. So, but you have to like edit your properties every time. But what you can also do is create just um, a build type. I forgot what it's called. Like instead of like debug release, you just put
Yeah,
bug release
you can do
ship.
that in Visual Studio, but I find it's,
Yeah,
in my view, it's easier not to.
right. It's easier just to manually update the project and put
Unless you want to
the
have, yeah, I mean, if you're never going to modify your project, then that's a good option.
right. But but it also could work if you have like a GOG build and then you have a Steam build
Yeah,
because
hold on.
you
Enables
can't.
create a temporary file setup. Why? What is running setup?
I don't know.
Okay, I gotta stop the video because something bad is happening.
All right. Well,